Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. And a very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let us begin our session today by reciting Kitab Al-Fatihah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. Respected Associate Professor Dr. Noor Harun Abdul Karim, speaker, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters who are here face to face as well as who join online. Welcome to the Sheikh Muhammad Nakib Al-Atas Library Lecture Series number 9. I'm Brother Fazli Omar, the moderator of today's program. Sheikh Muhammad Nakib Al-Atas Lecture Series is a lecture on Sheikh Muhammad Nakib Al-Atas collection with the objective of promoting the collection and its usage by the students, researchers, and community as a whole to make use of these gems and treasures for their study and research. This is the 9th Sheikh Muhammad Nakib Al-Atas Library Lecture under the title of Reviewing Quantitative Manuscript submitted to Malaysian Journal of Library and Information Science or Majlis Advice for Authors by Associate Professor Dr. Noor Harun Abdul Karim. Let me brief you a bit about this journal. The Malaysian Journal of Library and Information Science is published 3 times a year on April, August, and December by the Departments of Library and Information Science, Faculty of Arts and Social Science, University Malaya. The journal publishes original research articles in the field of Library and Information Science, LIS, as well as related domains that encapsulates information and knowledge. Additionally, it promotes discussion of professional practices, policies, principles, and advancement in the domain of library and information science. In order to different new concepts, approaches, systems, and technology, the journal seeks to create a forum for discussion among LIS practitioners, particularly in the Asia-Pacific region. The publication was released in the print and electronic formats between 1996 and 2008. From 2009 onwards, only the electronic versions has been made available through the ejournal.um.edu.mi. The journal is being indexed and abstracted by Clarivate Analytics Web of Science Q3 and Elsevier's Scopus Q2. Okay, let me draw your attention to the biography and the expertise of our speaker today. Okay, Dr. Noor Harun obtained his PhD in Communication and Information Studies, Rutgers, the state of New Jersey, 1994 until 1999. Throughout his career history, he was associate professor at the Departments of Library and Information Science, Faculty of Computer Science and Information Technology, University of Malaya, from 2009 until 2017. He also hold the administrative duties as the head of Library and Information Science Department, Faculty of Computer Science and Information Technology, University of Malaya, August 2014 until July 2017. Okay, he taught the undergraduate level as well as the postgraduate and also master PhD level under the research and methodology subjects and other subjects as well. His research projects, one of his research projects as principal researcher is organizational commitment among Malaysian academic libraries, and job satisfaction among Malaysian academic libraries. He also being a research supervisor to the many of students who already graduated, including Sister Noor Hasni binti Cik Hassan, 1999-2000, under the title of Performance Measures in Libraries and Empirical Review. Okay, his among outstanding publications under the ISI referred journal. He is the co-author to the Smna Sami J and Noor Harun 2014 under the title of A Correlational Study of Foreign Language Anxiety and Library Anxiety Among Non-Native Speakers of English, a case study in a Malaysian public university. This article was published in the Journal of Academic Librarianship in 2014. Okay, there also he also presented papers in many conferences and also seminars, proceedings, and among his right now, he also being a research training, become a research training trainers and also researcher under the Research Foundation Workshop for Library and Information Science Professional by Persatuan Pustakawan Malaysia and others institution Malaysia as well as abroad. Okay, without further ado, I would like to call upon Associate Professor Dr. Noor Harun to deliver his presentation. فليتفضل مشكورا. السلام عليكم.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. I'm very happy to be here because this is my first visit to ISTAC. Even though I have served UIA for about 17 years, I've never stepped foot in ISTAC. And like my former student Fazli has said, I was a lecturer, instructor in research methods and statistics. So when I was still an academician at International Islamic University, University Malaya, folks, especially those at the Department of Library and Information Science, the owners of Majlis invited me to be a reviewer. So I was a reviewer before I even joined UM faculty or the Department of Library and Information Science. So because of my background in statistics and quantitative methods, so I was assigned to review all manuscripts that are supposedly or purportedly to be quantitative in nature, meaning they have statistics, they have tables, charts, and they have hypotheses and all that. So today, what I'm going to do is to share my experience as a reviewer. It's not to teach any research method or statistics course, even though the discourse would include some hints or some tips, some caveats about how to prepare research manuscript, especially quantitative research, and what pitfalls to avoid. Okay, the objective of this today's talk is to give some tips and advice so that those who are intending or planning to submit their manuscripts for publication to Majlis would be aware of what it takes to be accepted or to be considered for publication. Okay. Publication to me is it's a very competitive business. It's a very competitive enterprise. Because for one particular journal like Majlis, we have received thousands of manuscripts, and we are able to publish about 6 to 7 only per issue. So imagine for 1 year, maybe less than 40. So it is not just doing it correctly, not doing it accurately, the way it should be done, but also there's an element of luck and some element of novelty that you can inject into your paper to make it outstanding, so that whenever a reviewer like me is looking at the paper, I would say recommended with very little changes or modifications. So okay, to begin, um, you see, I have to be near there to be able to look at the slides. Somehow, my eyesight are not that good if the distance is kept here. If you can just adjust the thing. Yes. All right. Okay, where shall we begin? Okay. Next slide. Next. Can you make it bigger? Or maybe I have to come nearer. Mic, okay. So, like I have said earlier, purpose of this short talk is knowledge sharing session, experience, to share my experience as a reviewer of what to expect when you submit a manuscript that is purportedly or supposedly quantitative in nature. So familiarize authors when employing the quantitative mode of inquiry as to the pitfalls to avoid when submitting their work to ISI tiered journals like Majlis. So ISI tiered journals are more demanding in the sense that there is a kind of a rigor to that, added rigor or perhaps increased rigor in the selection of documents and manuscript for publication. So that's why it is given a higher rank for purposes in University of Malaya. They like in my department that under the computer science, we not supposed to publish purpose because it is not counted as what you call has something that would bring about your promotion. Bring promotion. So it wouldn't help if you publish in Scopus. The faculty is science faculty. They would ignore it. So it has to be ISI to ignore our publication in Scopus. So that is the disadvantage to that lah, because even though things can get published in Scopus, you just have to abandon it. You have to ignore it because you cannot get it done in ISI. Okay, next. Okay, the first thing when I receive, usually I will receive about 20, 30 manuscripts. I will read the abstract. First thing, very important to have the abstract. So if I look at the abstract, I find this very interesting. I would just note there somewhere, interesting. Then I would go straight to the section on population and sampling if the author has decided to assign a section. If none, if I look, there's no section on population and sampling, and suddenly I find a lot of figures, a lot of numbers, a lot of tables, a lot of statistics, then I know that this cannot be accepted because we need to know how did the data arrive. So the sample is very important. The sample, it is not only for publication purposes, also for dissertation purposes, whether at master's level or at the doctoral level. Sample size is very important. For all statistics, especially inferential statistics, you need to draw or select a random sample. T-test, ANOVA, chi-square, the regression, all requires the assumption of a random sample. So author states that he or she has drawn a convenient sample. So the moment there's a convenient sample, they say I chuck away, I set aside. The editor asked me why. I said it fails to meet the very decent standard of acceptance for a quantitative piece of research. That's why even dissertation students have failed. That's why in my class, when I'm teaching, I will tell them, those preparing to do thesis, ensure if you are going to use those inferential tests, draw a convenient sample. You don't know, read up. Consult someone, lecturer or somebody you know who have done such work before. If it is a population-based study, then only descriptive statistics. Descriptive statistics meaning measures of central tendency, measures of variability. That means mean, median, mode, range, standard deviation. On the other hand, if someone who has collected data based on population, it's a population-based study, and yet he or she has attempted to conduct inferential tests, then it is altogether unacceptable. It's wrong. It's an error, serious error. So we chuck aside. So dissertation also be even more dangerous. I mean, you can't start work all over again. You have done about 3-4 years work. The fault lies therefore with the, not just with the student, but also with the lecturer who is supervising, who has not advised the student of this very important detail, type of sampling, when he or she starts to proceed with inferential tests. Sample-based, random sample. Population-based, only descriptive statistic, and central tendency, variability. Okay, if it is the latter case, then two things I will look for. If it is a sample-based kind of study, I will look for, was the sample derived randomly or otherwise? Otherwise means, was it a convenient sample? If the author of the manuscript states that it's a random sample, it's fine. I go ahead, start and proceed with my reading. If he or she says it is a convenient sample, and that's it, I stop reading there. I'm not going to read other parts of the manuscript. I just set it aside, chuck it away. Not accepted. Not accepted. Not accepted. In the event the sample was drawn conveniently and the author had employed inferential statistics, then the manuscript would be rejected. And then I will look for sample size. If it was a random sample, okay, it was done correctly. Random sample was drawn using SPSS or a table of random sample or some other methods which have been described in textbooks. Then I will look at the sample size. Now, a lot of mistakes have been done with sample size. People say 10%, 20%. No, it was not based like that. It is based on population size and the amount of error that the researcher is willing to tolerate, ranging from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5%. Or and plus the confidence level. Confidence can range from 90% to 95% or 99%. So this must be there in the manuscript. Otherwise, there will be suspicion raised on the authenticity of the sample. When the sample has doubts, when the reader, the reviewer has doubts about the credibility of the sample, therefore all the findings are dubious. And when they are dubious, it means not worthy of publication at all. So these things need to be spelled out in a class of statistics and research methods. Somehow or other, some lecturers don't teach this sort of thing, or maybe the student has forgotten, or perhaps need a refresher course when they are doing their dissertation. When they are embarking on this, most people tend to forget about the course after they get a B or an A or whatever it is, they forget about it. When they start doing dissertation, it's all something else, or what the supervisor advises. Now, problem with supervisors, there are very few supervisors, especially that I've come across. See, the problem of supervision is someone has been assigned a supervisory responsibility without having the necessary background. For example, training in quantitative methods. He or she has got a PhD and has published widely, but mostly qualitative methods. Qualitative methods. So they don't know. But they've been given that topic to supervise because to fill up the quota, KPI purposes. No one else has, this person has already overloaded already. He has so many students under him. So he has to take it. Now, when he undertakes the responsibilities to supervise a quantitative research project, it is therefore incumbent upon him. It is therefore, it behooves the researcher, the supervisor, to read up, to know, to attend courses. The problem is supervisor thinks he's so great. He's already professor, but he doesn't know. He only knows about ethnography, action research, grounded theory. I mean, mind you, these are scholarly, highly scholarly works. I'm not belittling them or disparaging them. But the point is, it's two different kind of work: quantitative work, qualitative work. And this is the cause for students being ill-advised or not being advised at all. And they embark upon a convenient sample, and therefore they ended up with their manuscript or even not getting their PhD. Okay, next. Okay, I recommend two books, Datalo, both by Patrick Datalo, Determining Size, Oxford University Press, and another one by him, later 2010, Strategies to Approximate Random Sampling. You can approximate, you cannot come to an accurate random sample. Approximate. Approximate random sampling. Next one. Brother, next one. Okay, hypothesis. Now, some students, again, when you submit a manuscript that is supposed to be quantitative in nature, I tend to look for hypotheses. If there are research questions, we will not reject. We will ask the student, the researcher, student researcher, or the lecturer researcher to reformulate them into hypotheses, because we are testing, it's hypothesis testing, hypothesis testing statistics. So formulate that into the form of hypothesis. So it could be one tail, two tail, or null hypothesis. We won't go into that because this is not a lecture on quantitative methods. So for study purporting to be quantitative, it must report the statement of hypothesis. Why? Examining the statement of hypothesis will enable the researcher as well as the reader, someone who reads other people's research, to identify variables, particularly the independent and dependent variables, and how they are placed in each of the hypotheses in the correct order or otherwise. Sometimes they are not, they are there, the IV independent variable, dependent variable are there in the hypothesis, but it's opposite. So in that case, we won't reject. So we tell them to reformulate, repair, modify, change, make amendments. That is not bad. That is not bad. The problem is when there's no hypothesis, and when there are hypotheses, the variables are not clearly identifiable. We fail to see which one is the variable, which one is not, let alone which one is the IV, which one is the DV. Badly done, badly phrased. So there was no assistance given to this person. Well, what if there are no hypotheses but research questions only? Then if a manuscript is considered to be worthy of publication, this is of course at the stage of the reviewer. When it comes to me, I find it okay. They need to rewrite, reformulate, or rephrase it in a way that it makes sense, that it becomes visible. We can see this is the IV, this is the DV, IV, DV. In the correct order. First IV first, then followed by the DV. Next. So reporting the statement of hypothesis also helps the researcher in determining whether the correct statistical tests have been employed. Yes. One look at the hypothesis, I know already whether it's a test testing for differences or test examining for relationship. Okay, I can tell immediately. So if I look into chapter 4, findings, and I find some other test that is not compatible with the statement hypothesis, then I know there's a problematic hypothesis. He or she does not understand, fails to understand. The way this has phrased test examining relationship, but he has given or conduct a test examining differences, which is altogether wrong, in serious error, grave error. Therefore, it calls for rejection. But still, if the paper is interesting, I have to put in a word to the editor and says, well, maybe it can be repaired, depend on how the editor agrees. The editor would say yes or no, depends on how many manuscripts are there still in waiting to be published. How many more interesting manuscripts? So a lot of factors come in. No, that's why I say it's not just a matter of whether get it done correctly or not. So if you're in luck, then okay. Further, the what you call statistical tests of relationship, parametric or non-parametric, are associated with hypothesis testing relationships, while statistical tests of differences, parametric or non-parametric, they are associated with hypothesis testing, testing differences between variables. Further, the hypothesis will enable the researcher to evaluate the discussion section. Yes. How are we going to evaluate the discussion section? We look at the hypothesis in relation to the findings. We look at the hypothesis in relation to the findings. How the writer or the researcher, what you call, conducts the discussion. Right, the discussion section. So this one is very, everything is tied up. Everything is tied up. Everything is tied up. It's like a thread. How the finding of statistical tests support the statement of hypothesis as well as how the present findings are relevant in the light of previous research findings. So this why this hypothesis statement of hypothesis is very important. In manuscript, they are supposedly or purportedly quantitative in nature. When we find that authors have reported hypotheses in their manuscript, some of the most common errors are, these are the errors that you should look for. If we are going to next one. A lack of clearly identified variables. Sometimes it becomes hard to label what authors have written into the hypothesis as variable. Sometimes I find, is this a variable or not? No, it cannot be a variable. Very not clear. So we are not likely to accept it. At other times, there are no clearly identified independent and dependent variables. Not just variables. The author failed to distinguish between the independent variables and the dependent variables. At other times, such concepts are not amenable to measurement. Some concepts cannot be measured using the 4 levels of measurement. And this one, the 4 levels of measurement, you have to attend a class to know what are the 4 levels of measurement. Most statistics texts will begin with the 4 levels of measurement. To be able to use statistics correctly, you must know the 4 levels of measurement. The 4 levels of measurement. At other times, authors place the dependent variable first to be followed by the independent variable. This can be corrected, redeemable, modifiable. You can ask the author to make changes. Provided we know that the author has done some typographical errors or some error in memory. He's made a mistake somehow. We know that it's not, he intends it to be this way, but somehow or other in a rush to submit papers, he has turned it around in the opposite way. Additionally, authors, researchers make glaring mistakes in formulating statement of hypothesis when they fail to consider variables level of measurement when positing hypotheses that test relationships between variables as well as those testing differences. This is a big thing. Whenever students come to my class, research methods, quantitative, I will teach them levels of measurement. How to formulate two major types of hypotheses. Hypothesis examining relationship, hypothesis examining differences. And the 2 pairs of variables, the independent and dependent variables, must conform to the correct levels of measurement. Must conform to the correct levels of measurement. So in a statistics class, you will learn all these things so that these errors would not appear in dissertations or when submitting to a journal for publication. Sometimes it happens when students seems unaware. I can only surmise or guess or hypothesize that they have not been taught properly. It's unfortunate. Sometimes statistics class, for social science students, we don't teach them the way they do mathematics for statistics at A level or O level. Statistics at O level or A level are not meant for hypothesis testing. For other purposes, or statistics for business for business class, for business purposes. Statistics for research, we can use software exclusively, which I have been using. Did I teach you that? Oh, you've forgotten already. When I teach my students at IIUM, it's all software driven. All classes are conducted in the lab. Everything has to do with the lab work. They have to understand the conceptually. So I impart conceptual understanding of statistics. No mathematics. There was one class I attended because I wanted to take a class. I wanted to further my knowledge by embarking in a master in education. So I went to this faculty. and the lecturer was teaching calculation using the calculators and all that. So eventually, many students fail, and in the end, they drop the course. No statistics for the master students. So the impact is that, well, you might say that, well, this student is not going to do quantitative methods, he's going to do qualitative methods. Okay, I agree. However, when you are reviewing the literature, you cannot say, I will only read up qualitative methods, research findings. You must read both. In order to review, conduct a good literature review, you must read both quantitative and qualitative research literature. So when you scrap the statistic class, which was compulsory before this, and you just have research methods only, so the students are disadvantaged. So they make this kind of blunders. Sad story. This is happening in higher education because they are all in a mad rush for ranking, KPI. KPI is the biggest disease in Malaysia right now in universities because, KPI by itself is good. But the fact is, KPI means the absence of rigor on the part of lecturers' performance in the classroom. Lecturers want to speed things up. Lecturers want to do things as quickly as possible, want to get as many students as possible. So they give very little attention to their own supervisees. It's a very sad story. It's the disease called KPI. I hope the present government will realize this somehow or other. Dr. Zamri, formerly from IIUM, AIRKHS, Political Science Department, would do something about doing away with the ranking. I mean, ranking is good, but what has happened is I've seen a lot of people not supervising, a lot of lecturers not teaching. Okay, then never mind for that. The next slide. Okay, measurement issues. Now, this is measurement issues. Measurement for someone. I was teaching in English department, English. I gained a lot of experience teaching these two methods, these two courses, methods and statistics in IUM, across 5 major departments: linguistics, sociology, psychology, information systems, library science, even IRK, comparative religion, and education. Many years ago. Many years ago. Many years. Before 2009. 2009, I left for UM. UM restricted. UM because UM is more research university, teaching only 2 courses only. UIA, I have taught, I was a deputy dean, I have taught about 18 courses. I'm not 18 courses, 6 courses, 18 credit hours per week. And then holding a position of deputy dean, research center. So in the end, that time was Prof. Arabi says, I said, Prof. Said, if I go on anymore, I'm going to have a mental nervous breakdown, I think. So I would rather abandon my administrative position than abandon my teaching position because I love to teach. Because the administrative posts were taking me away, Putrajaya, there, UPM, going all over the country. Okay, measurement issues. Measurement. Correct levels of measurement must adhere to the objective of the hypothesis. Are you testing for relationship? Are you testing for differences? Very simple example. There is a relationship between examination anxiety and examination performance. You have 2 concepts there, 2 variables. Examination anxiety, independent variable. Examination performance. Greater anxiety, lesser performance. Less anxiety, better performance. Are these examples of relationship? There are differences in examination performance between male and female students. That is an example of hypothesis examining differences. Simple. So this can go to many, many disciplines in this way. And it goes from a simple t-test to very advanced ANOVA. Multivariate analysis of variance, multivariate covariance analysis, ANCOVA, analysis of covariance, and so many other, the huge family of ANOVA. And in US universities, they only have statistics for postgraduate. They offer elective ANOVA statistics, that's all. Next semester, they use this regression, correlation, and this SEM. They really teach, but we follow American university in jumping in the ranking, but we don't do this sort of thing. Malaysia boleh punya ni lah, mindset. Minta maaf lah. Very, very sorry. Malaysia boleh. Said but true. So when researcher is fully aware of what the formulated hypothesis intend to examine, that is examining relationship or differences, then he or she would be most likely to conduct the correct statistical test. Likely to do it. Yeah. The only error would be perhaps she has opted for parametric or non-parametric. That sometimes is slight error can be corrected. That is redeemable. Can be corrected. Yeah? A serious blunder occurs when researcher is not clear as to what his hypothesis intends to examine or even blends the two objectives. Test of differences, test of relationship together in one hypothesis. Again, this is the case of not attending classes or attending classes with an incompetent or couldn't care less kind of lecturer, or perhaps nowadays it is an online kind of lecturer. My daughter was recently graduated from a university in Malaysia. I don't want to tell which university. This is what happened. Online university class sometimes cancel. Sometimes class just upload the notes only. Just read up on your own. It's easy to read up on your own. Undergraduate, mind you, undergraduates. So online is another serious problem. If it is done correctly, it's fine. But it's been used as an excuse to have an easy job for the lecturers. It is a real disaster. A lot of lecturers want to have an easy job because they have been pressed, hard pressed for publications. Publication. And even my daughter was an undergraduate. The lecturers are asking them to publish, help to publish, do something that can help me publish. I mean, what is this? Undergraduate? This is disaster. I think this is the thing where the ministry should conduct, Dr. Zamri and gang should conduct to what extent the gravity of the situation is causing a lot of damage. Lecturers not teaching, they don't want to supervise correctly. They don't want to even, they'll run away from any kind of administrative position. If they want an administrative position because they want the 600 ringgit every month, buy a new car. This is speaking from my experience. So sad story. Okay, next slide. Okay, validity and reliability. This is another thing. Students, when they use quantitative methods, they use scales or indexes, they call it, or indices. Then no evidence of validity and reliability, particularly construct validity, In education, you will go into concurrent validity, predictive validity, and all that. Yeah. So construct validity will have them believe. Sometimes they just report the reliability. The Cronbach's alpha seems to be the favorite among students. Put Cronbach alpha, it cover for both, they said. I said, no, that one is for internal reliability. Internal reliability can only be computed after you have done construct validity. It is after. Valid first. Then it's reliable. You are a valid holder of a driving license. You are valid. It means you are allowed to drive on the road. But then the next question is, are you a reliable? Same thing with measurement. Valid first, then come reliability. Suddenly they put in, it's reliability, internal reliability. Again, it's not the fault of the student or the author of the manuscript. It's because of bad teaching in universities. Because teaching is now considered to be a pariah profession among lecturers. Everyone wants to be a researcher. Everybody wants to be a researcher. It's something very, very dreadful, frightening. Why you want to be a researcher all the time? I mean, we are getting paid because they are students. We are not a research institute. We are not Institute of Medical Research, Forest Research Institute, Institute for Medical Research, Forest Research Institute, what other some more research? Malaysian Institute for Economic Research. No, it seems that our stakeholders are the so-called the ranking organization, QS and Times ranking organization, and the journals. These are our stakeholders. Our stakeholders should be the students and their parents who are paying. They expect to be their child to receive a decent education, to be taught. Instead, the lecturers are not doing. When it comes to postgraduates, they want the little as possible effort they can, but they want the maximum from the student. I want the paper, you include my name. So I can go up for promotion. Sad story, but it's... So be careful if you're pursuing higher degree, find out about the perspective. I always advise my students when I feel, or when I address new batch of students doing research, pursuing research degree, the MPhil, Master by Full Research, or the PhD, you better find out about what kind of person is it. Some students, some lecturers, my student telling me, the doctor, we send SMS, no reply. Send email, no reply. Phone call, no reply. Knock on the door when you know he's inside. He never opened the door. She never opens the door. This is the kind of action, and no action has been taken against them because they are highly published people. They bring an aroma, sweet aroma to the university. So mengharumkan nama university. So they are untouchables. Imagine long term what is happening on a long term basis. Because nobody is interested anymore in all this. University is meant for KPI for ranking organization. Please the Americans. Please the owners of this are all Americans. They make business out of it. Journal is a money making business. So the journals are intertwined with the ranking. Those who sit in the ranking organizations, the so-called stakeholders, are also in the journal system, the publishing. And then this is called neo-colonization all over again. It reminds me of Edward Said in Orientalism. He talks about Western intellectual hegemony. Edward Said. Western intellectual hegemony. Once again, under the guise of ranking. So if you are good, if you follow us, you follow our ranking, what our ranking wants. We follow what our journals specify. So what has education done to us? We can't think our own. We cannot say no, stop. We don't want to have them. Okay. When conducting quantitative research, a researcher typically employs scales, indexes to operationalize their concept. So this is for operationalizing concepts, anxiety, burnout. You can name so many things in psychiatry, in clinical psychology, in business world, marketing. It's many concepts, constructs are used using scales, operationalized to use them in their research. So the thing to remember when submitting manuscripts that employ scale is to report whether such scales that the author has employed in his study are valid as well as reliable. Valid first, come reliable. You're a valid driver with a valid driving license, but are you reliable on the road or not? Are you the one who always showing fists or putting some fingers? Or are you the one always what you call tailgating people? This is not reliable. They're valid. They pass their driving license. So in particular, reviewers like to look for evidence of validation as exemplified using statistical tests as exploratory and confirmatory factor analysis. This has to be taught. And these are not taught, not made compulsory for postgraduate students. You see? And then they expect, especially from UM, a student of mine passed his PhD by law. 2 years later, only she got her PhD because she didn't have the ISI papers. Sad case. Sad case. 2 years later only. Submit. She even cried in front of me. I say, you should have found out before that, before coming to UM. Why? I cannot do anything. 2 years. Wasted lah. Sometimes some employers will punish them. Salary deduction or promotion freeze. So many things to consider. You go for going to certain places that's supposedly very high in the ranking. Because in Malaysia, no matter which university you go, very high in ranking, salary is still the same. Whether for Open University, IIUM, UM, salary will be totally the same. I go and spend 5 winters, 5 hot summers, 5 very cold winters in New Jersey. Same thing. I don't get any extra income or extra salary, I think. Where is the motivation? These are the things about higher education. Additionally, some authors only report Cronbach's internal reliability coefficient while omitting evidence of validation. Cronbach is not encompassing. This does not embrace validation. It only says internal reliability. It is after a few items, which is 15 items measuring job satisfaction, has been reduced to say 5 items. Then if you do a Cronbach's alpha, submit it to Cronbach's alpha, the 5 might be reduced to further to 3 items. So it's a 3-item measure for that particular construct. So that's why validation first. Valid first, then only reliable. Hence, contributors of quantitative-based research need to be fully cognizant of matters and issues relating to validity and reliability. Okay, next one. Matters relating to statistical tests. 4 major reasons. There's some when incorrect statistical tests were employed by authors and researchers. Number 1, concepts and constructs were incorrectly measured. The anxiety, whether it is examination anxiety, whether it's performance anxiety, many other anxieties in other fields. You ask, are you anxious? Yes or no? That is one incorrect way of doing it. Yes or no? Yeah. True or false? You must have a scale. You must have a scale. You must have a scale. So you must refer. That's why reviewing the literature is very, very important. First thing you should do. But before you review the literature, reading the literature means you have to understand all the research methods, terms, nomenclature. You have to understand things like construct validity. You have to understand things like homoscedasticity. You have to understand things like validity, internal reliability, concurrent validity, statistical term also you must understand. So cannot do a literature review. It's not like reading newspaper review. You have to attend a few courses in research methods and statistics to be a good consumer of research methods and statistics. Because quantitative method is synonymous with using statistics. So you must take few courses. That's why when I was studying at Rutgers, we have 5, 6 courses, of methods and research. Here you propose to them, they say cannot. The professor will say, no. Professor come from British University. They do it in 3.5 years. They get already walking around, and they have already long arm complications. Well, they cannot. I don't know myself. So they will ignore you. They won't care. So if I tell them, no way. Cannot. It's a very good time, finish resources, no resources. Everything must be touch and go. Touch, go. Professors like that, students also like that. They go quickly. So that is one way. Construct long levels of measurement. Failure to meet assumptions underlying such tests. One assumption is random sample. T-test, independent sample T-test, dependent sample T-test, paired T-test, match sample T-test, one sample T-test, ANOVA, the whole family of ANOVA, or random sample. Random sample has not been used. Use convenient sample. That's it. All the tests are nonsense, rubbish. Gone, the whole dissertation gone. The whole paper also gone. The whole manuscript. This is very dangerous. Very, very, very dangerous. We are all in a hurry. We don't want to spend time. We are all in a hurry. We want to move very fast. Now, if you are doing a quantitative methods, your hypothesis means you are using inferential statistics. The inferential test means must have random sample. All inferential tests, whether parametric tests, non-parametric tests, must have random sample. Must have random sample. The 2 books I show you, Patrick Detallo. Or you can find any other statistics books, or you find some other lecturer or some other students who have done this before, some other researcher. Okay, sit with him and ask him, how is it done? It's not difficult. Only thing is, it's a matter of sitting down and learn. If you don't want to learn, then You will make all kind of mistakes lah. But if you should, there was once I was sitting in a dissertation viva. There was an examiner from the West, I think from Canada, I think. Canada or one of the US universities. So she, I believe, must be a quantitative methods person, qualitative methods. So there was a huge error, serious error in the student's dissertation. She points out at something else. She doesn't highlight that one. She doesn't know. That's why, again, supervisor, when they are preparing the student for the viva voce, should invite only those who are knowledgeable about quantitative methods, not invite qualitative methods people into a thesis which is predominantly quantitative in nature, asking for the student to be failed. Again, the supervisors also don't know, not doing the job, because they're all hard pressed for publication. They are so, dia tak naik pangkat lah macam ni, bila-bila nak naik pangkat macam ni. ISI, Scopus. This is the thing I will say, but downside to KPI in Malaysia lah. I don't know about the countries, but I can say. Okay, failure to meet that one, random sample. The other two, the others are have to do the levels of measurement. Dependent variable in t-test and in ANOVA, one-way ANOVA, two-way ANOVA, three-way ANOVA, MANOVA. Dependent sample must be normally distributed. That is an assumption. It's not done. So out goes the whole analysis. Cannot be trusted. It's not trustworthy findings. Dissertation means, even a major overhaul, major overhaul. They will give you 1.5 years. All this can be corrected if the students, the supervising has been taught properly. And the supervisor also who is supposed to be aware of all this, are aware of this. I should warn the students of the pitfalls. Warn of the students of the pitfalls. See, sample size is too small. So sample size is too small. Sometimes sample size is too big. With all this exploratory, confirmatory factor analysis, structural equation modeling, that part on the CPA. Too big, you will find significant ANOVA. Significant ANOVA means no fit. The model does not fit. So it's not because anything else, because the size is too big. So you must adjust. So you must have knowledge on that sample size. How big is the sample size? How small should be the sample size for a particular statistical test or for a particular data reduction technique like EFA, CFA. Right? This thing needs knowledge, because cannot say do research. Sering tak ajar apa pun tak tahu, jalan. Okay, cepat. Finish it off quickly. Then last one, running inferential statistics when the study is population-based. Yes. They have said, okay, the population is very small, 200. It sends to all, still population-based, even though the return is about 150 or 100. That 100 is not a sample size. So some students argue during the defense. No, I sent to 200, this population, return is 100. So therefore that is a sample. So no, that is not a sample. To begin with, you send to the whole population. So it does not entitle you to do all those t-tests, ANOVA, chi-square, whatever. You do mean, median, mode only. So how does the dissertation stand if you ask him or her to overhaul? Memang tak dapat lah. Whose fault? Supervisor, what was the supervisor doing all the time? The supervisor read or not? They don't read sometimes, I know. They only want to sign their name. And statistics, okay, sign their name, KPI. Then they will be promoted, professor. Very simple lah. If you are a Muslim, we should know that we will be examined on the day of judgment. Bukan saja minum arak, berzina, apa. Ini pun Allah Ta'ala akan tunjuk dalam kitab tu, buku tu. Book of Deeds. Dia akan tunjuk. You buat naya student you sendiri. Dapat duit, bagi makan anak bini. Tapi you tipu. You mengajar surah apa? Mutafifun kah? Yang apa? 2 kilo, kita bagi dia hanya daging 1,5 kilo ya. Tapi dia bayar untuk 2 kilo. Apa dia? Surah apa tu? You all should know better. Surah apa? Mutafifun kah? Inilah Allah Ta'ala bagi tahu dalam Quran, these people are doing this, is cheating. Same thing, if you go into a class 3 hours, you mengajar 1.5 hours only. Your supervision, you're supposed to supervise, you just don't do anything. You don't even read the chapters when given to you. Tak tahulah kalau orang Islam buat macam ni susah. Sad case lah. Itu sad case. Memang tak percaya Tuhan ni. Tak percaya pada hari akhirat. That story ya. Okay, next one. Some final words. Conclusion. Successful acceptance of manuscripts for publication in respectable and trustworthy journal. Bukan predatory. Predatory journals. Nor fraudulent journals may depend on many factors. 1. Author preparing a research-based manuscript for submission with the hope that his efforts will come into fruition needs to be aware of a couple of things. And inshallah, our efforts will conclude with his or her paper or manuscript being accepted and published in the journal that he has submitted. Number 1, he needs to be fully cognizant of what it takes to successfully conduct a good piece of research and how to go about reporting it. This has to be learned. Where? In the classroom. By whom? By the lecturer. If you get a lecturer who is not so competent, you have to make your own effort to learn on your own. So otherwise, you won't get a PhD. You cannot blame the lecturer. You know, the lecturer will never be at fault. We are copying the West. West is like that. British style, American style is like that. The lecturer will never be at fault. The supervisor will never be at fault. Yeah. That's why in this world, don't hope for justice. Justice in the actual sense of divine justice will not happen. Not happen. It will never happen. Okay. Then mana you enjoy only, short while only. Kan rasa seolah-olah hanya kamu di sini hanya satu petang ya. You enjoy you have all the big cities, Volvo. In the end, it will come to nothing. Okay, author is preparing a research manuscript for submission to number 1, here he needs to be fully cognizant what it takes to successfully conduct a good piece of research and how to go about reporting his. Reporting is another thing you have to learn also. Yeah, reporting you have to learn. So this supposed to be covered in a class on research methods. That's why the class on research methods cannot have quantitative methods. Survey, experiment, quantitative content analysis. And then qualitative. Grounded theory, ethnography, action research, narrative analysis, conversation analysis, discourse analysis, all in one semester. Mana boleh belajar macam tu? Sikit yang bohong lah. Penipu besar. This is practiced by our academicians. You know what happened? Because they follow textbook. The textbook is not meant for one semester punya. You have to divide quantitative methods, one course. Even then, tak boleh habis juga pun. Tapi tak apalah, at least people. And then you have qualitative methods. Growing. Ethnography, they had a critical ethnography, feminist ethnography. Bunch of huge branches branching out. You need to have at least one semester qualitative methods. You need to cram everything. And then one lecturer I know in UM get best teacher for that methods class. Macam mana lah dapat best teacher? Memang tak tahulah. Best teacher. It tells you a lot about the system and the student who voted her. Mungkin dia bagi A semua, wallahualam. Tapi cannot blame the student. Because students sekarang, you know, there was a case. One lecturer will do the evaluation on the last day of the exam. Habis exam kata, he tells the student, this is first-hand evidence. Here, can you hear? A lot of people have listened, I have recorded this thing. If you give me a bad evaluation, I'll make sure you never pass this course. And they get away with it. And they become a professor. Just so much going on in the university. I think SPRM tak boleh buat apa benda-benda ni, betul tak? Tak ada kan, kita buat apa. Ini SPRM esok ni lah, hari akhirat esok ni. They get away in this world. Imagine if you are the father, you are paying your child to learn something so that he can get a decent job. Mak bapak kita susah, orang tani, orang kerja, lori ke apa, susah simpan duit. You can get this kind of treatment. Yeah. It's just like buying something for apa, $50, he give you only $1 worth only that service. Macam ni lah dunia ni. Okay, next one. The author needs to identify appropriate journal. Ni appropriate journal. Sometimes it's the wrong journal you submit. Memang ditolak. You have to find out. Do some homework. Ask colleagues, ask friends, ask lecturers, whoever you need to know. Make sure that you send it to the right journal. The right journal. Macam memilih jodoh agak lah. Kita tawarkan dia kata orang lain. Orang silap orang. Tak mau. Ditolak. Okay. More importantly, he or she needs to find out about the author's acceptance rate. Journals, some journals, 10% only. I mean, 90% rejection. And mostly the ISI tier 2, tier 1, all this 90%, 80% rejection rate. And that is the reason why many people have resort to orang kata unacceptable practices lah. They go to all these fraudulent journals. There is apa dia panggil Iran Gate in UM. Iran Gate, this Iranian guy, he's been getting people to publish in ISI, which are fraudulent ISI. Ada, they call it Iran Gate. So after Watergate. So there's one lecturer, in 1 year, by May, he already got 50 ISI publication. Imagine, 50. And this, they will justify, boleh, dia tak boleh, 50 boleh. Ni satu bil, imagine kalau you ada 4 pun, 3 bulan 1 boleh tak? 3 bulan 1, 3 bulan 1. 3 months 1. 12 bulan dapat 4 kan? 3 bulan boleh tulis kah? Kerja lain macam mana? And they are holding a very high ranking position. Dean, deputy dean. So macam mana? How do you explain this mystery? No action because the whole everybody is the KPI links. The VC nak kata apa? Because it affect him, his KPI. So he went to the meeting, Kementerian Pendidikan Tinggi meeting apa, universiti ni tak dapat, universiti bagus, banyak. So dia tutup mata sebelah lah. Not just many universities in Malaysia. 50, 60 ISI. My professor, masa kat Rutgers, dia kata, if I work very hard, maybe I will get maybe 2. If I'm lucky, I will get 3. If I'm not lucky, I will get none for that year. In Malaysia boleh. Malaysia boleh. 50. Nobody want to say anything. Itulah, this is the thing about Malaysia, itu baru akademia. Tak tahu lah benda-benda lain, bidang-bidang lain, kita tak tahu. Wallahualam. So what happened? That thing, because this is library here kan. So the chief librarian of UM brought this matter up because library was given in charge of this ISI business. So in the end, they were all very upset with her. When she left, no more chief librarian post. The ISI punya ni was taken out of the library of UM. It was taken out. No more, but nobody in charge. No more. Dulu library was in charge. So it was taken out of the library. Because they want to, okay, 5 minutes more. Okay, next one. So author in the published material is to read a couple of published papers from that journal, soak himself with the mechanics involved. Look at the online instructions or author's instruction. Author needs to be willing to prepare to undergo several revisions. Yes, you must revise. Again and again and again, you must revise. Sometimes I had experience, I revise. Towards the end, reject. Tak tahu sebab apa, no reason given. Itu apa, panggil apa? Jihad. Okay. Accompanying the above attitude is the willingness of the author to wait for at least a year or two. Sometimes they have, you have wait your turn. This is why PhD student tu tak boleh ni. Tak boleh grade on time sebab paper dia belum diterima lagi, dipublish. Next one. Patience, perseverance are necessary attributes of an author. The moral is that of a master and a servant. Author must be the servant who wishes to be published must satisfy his masters. As a Muslim who wishes to see his work published in a respectable journal, he or she must constantly make doa lah kita. So you must be patient, patient and perseverance. Go on the straight route, lambat tak apa. Actually, boils down to thing. As a Muslim, we should know one thing. Kita akan disoal jawab. Matlamat tidak menghalalkan cara. The end does not justify the means. That's it. But people, this is a materialistic world that we are living in, right? Everybody is doing it, right? Semua orang buat macam tu, ustaz-ustaz buat macam tu, ustaz selebriti ke, tak selebriti ke, politician. So, baru ni, 3-4 orang academician tangkap kan? Yeah. Misuse of funds. Okay, that's all I have to say. I mean, it's a short talk. So you must be patient, you must know your stuff well, and then you have to serah Allah doa. Even though you know your stuff well, sometimes we have to forgo our ego. If you want it to publish, you know you are right, but he's wrong, but he's the editor, the reviewer, you have to submit to their whim and fancy. Suka tak suka kena macam tu lah. Okay, Brother Fazli. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Noor Harun, for a very informative and also fruitful presentation. Okay, right now I open to the floor for any questions. So we may pick up 3 to 5 questions, as well as those attended online. So you may text your question at the what we call chat box. Okay, now I open to the floor. Do you have any question?
Assalamualaikum, Prof. A very interesting one. Dr. Noor Harun, I'm very have benefits from your presentation. I have come across this kind of article, type of article. They call it systematic literature review. Yeah, maybe you have heard about it. How many these journal majlis accept this kind of systematic literature? Is it considered quantitative or qualitative? Thank you, Prof.
Typically, systematic literature review is tend to be quantitative. They do meta-analysis kind of reporting, meta-analysis. Also, but then in qualitative, may call it meta-synthesis. That one also since systematic review. So in order to do that, we cannot follow the traditional model, the narrative literature review. Yeah. So you have to learn many books on that. So many books you have to read up. Sometimes it's not covered in the class. No time. Because in the class they teach so many things at one time. Quantitative method, there's no method, no time to teach qualitative literature review also. How to write research. So look for workshop. I don't see. I have not seen any workshops on how to conduct, how to write up systematic literature reviews for quantitative and qualitative. But there are books. There are quite a number of good books. You have to be patient to read from page 1 to the last page. There's no article, short article. Are you doing what? Is it in ISTAC? You're studying here? Oh. Okay. Yes.
Assalamualaikum, Prof. My name is Sabaria. My discipline is architecture and arts, actually. And again, my research base, my PhD is actually based on architecture and arts, and it's qualitative. My question to you is, how do we determine the sampling when we're doing something which is related to quantitative? Previously, I was doing it on qualitative, but now looking at certain area of how to quantify in terms of measurable device and so on. How do you determine a rule of thumb? How do you say whether it's too big or too small or it's sufficient and so on? Thank you.
So in quantitative research, you can refer the two books. Sorry. In quantitative research, refer the two books, Data Law and How to Approximate Random Sampling and How to Determine Sample Size. Apart from that, there are other good books. There are books on quantitative research for architecture also, I think. That was time there was this man from UIA. I don't know whether I think he has that. He was teaching structural equation modeling and all that in apa, what they call it, KAED, Kuliah of Architecture and Engineering, what? Environmental, yes. So he was teaching those things. But you can find books. Question is, when it comes to sample, if you are going to sample human subjects or some non-human subjects, this is the issue. Because in the sciences, they have non-human subjects. So human subjects are much easier because if you can find a sampling frame, I mean, a sampling frame by itself, the name is very deceiving. Sampling frame is actually the list of all the members eligible to be sampled. It's all the elements in the population. That means if you talk about postgraduate students at ISTAC, all the names of all existing postgraduate students, the current postgraduate, that is a sampling frame. From that sampling frame, then you draw a random sample. If your intention is to run any kind of statistical tests, inferential tests in particular, inferential tests, because all these inferential tests, by nature of the word inferential, it means the probability, the p-value in all inferential tests, p less than 0.05, p less than 0.06. That's the reason why you must have a random sample. So there is an error. The error, you see, is 95%. Means what are the chances of you finding an error for this particular study? The chances of you finding that error, that is the hypothesis is not true, is less than 5%. That is the lowest baseline rate. What are the chances of you finding an error that the hypothesis is found to be true, right? Acceptable. So you are differences. There are differences in anxiety, examination anxiety between male and female students. The chances of an error is less than 5%. So less than 5% means you are willing to tolerate 5% error. So in all other cases, the hypothesis holds true. So hypothesis testing is linked to sample size. And of course, there are other further concepts, higher concepts like statistical power and effect size statistics. So that one I have to go to class. They call it statistical power. What is the power of the study? For a particular test, this much power you must have. So this is the size of the sample. So quantitative matters a lot to learn, you know. The way they are teaching is not highly inadequate. Highly inadequate. I can't understand why they expect a lot, but they don't want to invest in teaching. You know, American universities, they have many courses, you know, research methods you can choose. That means if I'm doing in the Department of Communication Information Studies, I can go to political science. I can go to psychology and take courses. I can sit in. The professor will welcome you. Here, if you go in, they will find you a threat. They will say, hey, why are you here? Spying on me. Who asked you to come in? So it's the mindset of the professors, you know. But don't have. Register and all that nonsense. You sit in, you just sit in. Because they don't have this suspicion that somebody is spying, finding out on me or finding out my weakness or something. That means what? That means you are inadequate. Inadequately trained, you are not. You are, what's the word? You are insecure. You're not. You don't know your stuff well. That's why you takut lah. Ataupun you terlalu berani. You speak beyond your subject. Like some ustaz atau beyond your subject, kena terus kena gam. Dude, so you must know your stuff lah. You must know your stuff. You see, how how high you go up, also, you're a professor, class 1, there's still a lot to learn. There's so much we don't know. Learning is continuous learning. You must keep on learning. Huh? Yes, yes.
Okay. My name is Mariette. Uh,
Oh, from Peru.
yeah. My questions are quite simple. And now we have real-time huge data that is generated by users. It can be online on websites. So my question is, can traditional statistics handle this type of data? And if not, what kind of science can handle such data, and how can we can approach in research?
The question is, what do you mean by real data?
Real-time data.
Real-time data.
Yeah, it's generated by users, we can say online, and is usually is stored in databases, and it exponentially increases every day.
This one is the province of what they call big data science. It's not in my area. That's why when I was in computer science, they asked me to teach. I said, no. I said, mine is only for this kind of work. That one is for data science, big data and all that. Big data and all that. So you have to attend some computer science department. They have a course on big data science. You know. When the company decides they have so much data in the company, they want to make some changes, investment and all that. So a lot of people tend to extrapolate. No, they thought I was teaching the statistics. I mean, I can teach them. No, I say, let me tell you what, I'm not a statistician. I've never been one. I never will be one. Now, I'm teaching research methods, of which statistics is a component. It's an important integral component. The same thing, give you a simple analogy, a linguist and a journalist. A linguist, someone trained as a linguist, he can become a journalist, he can train. But a journalist, he cannot go and teach linguistics. Two different things. So same thing here. I will never call myself a statistician. I'm just using statistics, just that I'm using English to write reports, research reports. I'm not an English lecturer. I'm not an English language lecturer. And this also arises confusion among some academicians. They tend to think the two are the same. I don't know how this can happen. And there are, of course, lecturers who say, I've got a PhD, I can teach anything. That's another thing. Another serious disease. You know, I was attending one of the Viva, and they called in somebody from chemistry. He was a member of the Senate, member of the UM Senate. So he attended, and so happens that this student was doing something on narrative analysis. He said, what kind of rubbish is this? It's all storytelling. I said, Prof, have you read anything about narrative analysis? In the first place, I said, Prof, I'm sorry to say this, but you are not trained for this. You shouldn't be in this first place. I know you are a member of the Senate, but you don't have the qualifications to be able to understand this dissertation. This is a narrative analysis, a qualitative kind of research. Something which is prevalent in the work of literature, literary works, history. Even now, it has gone into psychology and all that. So there's another fault of the university that they put in the wrong person. A chemistry person will look for formula, look for statistics and all that. For him to see numbers, it is a useless piece of work. Same thing, people make a lot of confusion asking someone to supervise something which is not within her supervision, within her area of expertise. Turned out to be a disaster. And then that person calling an external examiner, because the supervisor has the right to choose examiners. So if he was not the right person to supervise, what do you think will happen when he or she select examiners? Yeah. This should not have happened. I don't understand why people cannot think this is not the right person.
Okay, maybe we can take last questions. Is there any question? Yes.
Assalamualaikum, I'm Shahril from Open University. I am a PhD candidate on education. I want to ask about design and development research. What type of research is that, and what is the requirement to produce a final product? For example, assessment tools, product. The end is the product. What should we consider in the process?
Okay, Assalamualaikum. I have heard about this design and development, but I have not read anything yet. I have seen textbook on that. So you need to read some textbook. Begin with the simple ones, the shorter textbook to understand. If you are hoping is the traditional way, and the supervisory kind of thing. It's not American style when they have committees, no. So that one, then he or she, your supervisor, should have advised you that before you embark on this kind of, you should have some knowledge. You should have read a few books, at least 2 books lah, to have 2 different opinions. For one book, sometimes that book that you are reading, one book might not be something that the supervisor agrees, or might not be something that the future examiner is on agreeable terms with the author's ideas. So always safe to read 2 or 3 books, at least minimum of 2. So I have seen this design and development. But if since you work in the library, you're able to find books. No? The only thing is you must make an effort to sit down and dip your nose. You have to read. When it comes to reading, you must read a couple of times, This is not reading from Facebook, reading social media messages. You got to plow through the word plow, P-L-O-U-G-H, plow. Membaca. Reading a couple of times. That's why the PhD is not that everyone who got a PhD is a brilliant person. No. There's never any claim that everyone with a PhD, 1 or 2 occasions they may meet some. Most is given to those who are very dedicated, devoted, those who are persistent. They've gone through the vigor and rigor. Rigorous means read again and again, not understand, make notes again, read again, ask somebody else, go and listen to something else, go listen to a lecture, go to an international conference, ask questions. That is what is involved. You cannot sit down in your house, just read a few books and that's it. The rigorous nature of the PhD is to do a lot of reading and discussion, asking questions, write to people, I always tell my PhD students, if I'm not able to answer them satisfactorily, I'm the lecturer in the class. So I can recommend you to someone who can give you a more satisfactory response. Or you find out on your own. Nowadays with online, so many things can get easy access, very easy. Not in the old days. In the old days, it's so difficult. But now, only thing is, are you willing to go through that? You sit down and read and read and read. They will say you soak yourself in the literature. That's the term. You soak. Soak man, rendam lah, rendam. Bukan rendam buku tu telan. You read through again and again. Don't understand, never mind. Again, or find another title by a different author on the same topic. I have read so many books. First, I don't understand. I was taking a course in quantitative methods at Rutgers. That lecturer hardly ever stand up from her desk. Sitting down there, talking and talking and talking. Imagine, quantitative method macam tu. And then dapat pass best lecturer. Tak tahu lah macam mana. They don't want to stand up, write anything. Now, I find this symptom is seem to be what you call widespread. When I step into a classroom, I have to ask for a whiteboard. I ask the technician, what happened to the whiteboard? Dia kata, tak payahlah whiteboard sekarang ni. Lecture tu baca PowerPoint dia. But how can you explain things if you don't write things? Sometimes we pronounce it differently, the students hear it differently. Because so little attention is being given to teaching because the KPI. KPI means do research, do research, do research. You don't do research, you are no good. So who suffers actually? Universities are meant for students. They affect if they ask. There won't be a university without students. Betul tak? Won't be influencer, content developer. I don't know. Maybe I'm too old, I need old fashion. You know, my daughters will say, tu zaman bapak tu. Betul. So, want to get a PhD done, you have to do a lot of work. You tak boleh kata lah supervisor tak bagus ke tak bagus, you dah dapat. You have put in, you have invest money, you have to slog lah. You have to read and read and read. You have to do all, insyaAllah you can berjaya. Cannot point the finger lah. The system is like that. Anyway, you want to go US, chances are you might meet a lot of the lecturers who are similar, who will do as little as possible and get as much as possible from you. They want your name there, KPI. That's the nature.
Okay, I think
All the best. My former student.
yeah, for your former students. Okay, I think this is the end of our program today, and then there is the last questions to be answered by our speaker. All right, thank you so much for a wonderful and fruitful presentation, and also a very what we call very good question and answer session. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, on behalf of the ISTAC-IIUM Sheikh Muhammad Nakib Anatas Library and also organizing committee, we would like to thank Assistant Professor Dr. Noor Harun Abdul Karim for your presentation today. Also, to all participants today, face-to-face and also online, we apologize for any shortcomings during the program. And then let us end our program today by reciting Surah